He's on Zoom tonight.
Yes, he's excused. He's not excused.
Okay, first item here is adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll move that we adopt the agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Public comments. This item is for something that is not on this agenda, but within the purview of this commission. Do we have any comments from the audience or from the Zoom audience?
No, we don't.
Okay, consent calendar. We have draft minutes of meeting for April 28th. Do we have comments on those minutes or do we want to adopt them?
Move to adopt.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Next, item 6, study session. We have 2 study session items tonight. First one is SS 04-25 Mount Diablo condominiums. This is a request for a study session to construct a 6-story residential building with 2 levels of parking and 4 residential stories, measuring 58 feet in height, 31 for sale units. And Stephanie Cervantes will be the staff presenting the project.
Yes, good evening, commissioners, members of the public. My name is Stephanie Cervantes, senior planner with the planning department. And I'm going to be presenting your first study session today, which is a new multifamily residential building. All right. So the project site is the northwest corner of Mount Diablo and 2nd Street. The property is zone C1 and it's approximately 0.64 acres. The property is mostly flat, but it does have some slope going up on Orchard. I'm sorry, forgetting the name of that street. Orchard Hill Way, which is resembles kind of an alleyway between this property and the residential property to the north. As mentioned, the project is a 6-story new multifamily use. It's proposed to be condominiums for a total of 31 units, as well as 63 parking spaces over 2 podium levels. The vehicle access will be for from 2nd Street for the 1st level and from Orchard Hill Way from the 2nd level. There are some on-site amenities that will be for residents only, which include bike storage, a dog wash, a fitness center, a yoga studio, and a club on the top level. The floor plans are duplicate for levels 3 through 6. It includes a mixture of 2 and 3 bedroom floor plans. And most of the units also have private balcony space. They either have 1 or 2 balcony spaces. And as I mentioned, this is duplicate for all levels. I'm not going to get into a ton of detail on the architecture because we do have a presentation from the architect himself that will go into that detail. But I will point out a few things here. So the main pedestrian access is from the corner of Mount Diablo and 2nd Street. The design uses metal panels and composite panels in different colors in that white and that gray, as well as the railings that are also great for the balconies to add some architectural articulation, some vertical architectural articulation. And the maximum height of the building is proposed at 58 feet. And then you can also see here, this is the view from Mount Diablo Boulevard. So you can see the first 2 levels where that parking is designed differently from the residential above. This is the east side, so this is what you would see from 2nd Street, and you can see the vehicle access to the right of the screen. Yes, to the right of the screen there. This is what you would be seeing from the western property, the property to the west, the office commercial center. And you can see that there's an existing building there that's blocking a portion of that view. And this is what you would see from Orchard Hill Way. You can see the vehicle access there as well from on the right side of the screen. This is a rendering of the corner. Here you can see the main pedestrian entrance going into the lobby space. As well as the balconies and the white vertical articulation as well. So we have received no public comments for the project. The project was noticed to the neighbors 300 feet and was also posted. There was 3 postings on site letting the public know about this study session. There were no comments received by staff. And then we also have discussion questions for you tonight. These are the same that were in your staff report. So the 3 questions include, does the site design and circulation work within the context of the downtown area? Is the proposed architecture, massing, and scale consistent with similar projects in the downtown area? And are there any other design comments that DRC would like to pass to the applicant? And for tonight, again, this is a study session. The recommendation is to review the proposal and provide feedback to the applicant. There is no formal action to be taken tonight. That does conclude my presentation. Available for questions, but as I mentioned, the architect and the project proponent are here as well, and they're prepared to give a presentation.
Okay, are there any questions for Stephanie, for staff?
I have, so there's some significant waivers from current zoning having to do with height and setbacks and so forth. Do you have any comments on that at this point, or is that for future meeting?
At this point, staff does not have any comments on that. The applicant has submitted an SB 330 application, but we have not received a formal application for staff to analyze any waivers, incentives, or concession requests.
Okay, thank you.
And is this a density bonus as well, or?
This is proposed as a density bonus project.
Okay. Okay, applicant, we have 10 minutes for you to present.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm just going to take a minute to introduce myself, and then I'll hand it over to Paul, who will walk you through the project. My name is Nikhil Gera. I've been a resident of Lafayette since 2007. My wife grew up in Moraga, and my in-laws still live in Moraga. They've been residents there for over 50 years. The reason I'm saying all of this is to kind of convey to you that I'm local, right? I care about the community, and I care about what we design and what we build. My goal for this meeting is to get your feedback and then hopefully come up with something that is beneficial to the vitality and which adds to the vitality and the charm of Lafayette. I built another project in Lafayette, which I recently completed. I interacted a lot with the staff and cooperated with them and jointly came up with something which I think is an attractive project. It's called Woodhaven. It's a 3742 Mount Diablo. I'd invite you to guys come and see it, so you get a sense of what my goals are and what quality and what design standards I try to build to. With that being said, I'll hand it over to Paul to walk you through the presentation. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Paul Farrow. I'm with Ascend Architecture, and I want to thank you guys for taking the time tonight to meet us. This is a study session, and so we're definitely looking for input as we further develop the design. We're in the early stages right now. So with that, I'll just jump in and kind of run through the project. Yeah, so Stephanie already showed this view somewhat, but I'll just kind of run through some of the ideas behind it. So we know we have a 6-story building, a large building in the city, but given the density we're trying to achieve, which is 31 units versus the 32 we could actually provide for state density bonus. So we tried to break the building down as much as possible. We've got a strong base that's at the corner that plays up the lobby, which we thought was important at the corner to be the second Mount Diablo, to have that lobby there located. And then just basically try to create a base along the pedestrian walkways where people are going to walk along the edge of the building. And so above that, you've got the 4 stories of the residences above. We've got a lot of articulation, a lot of ins and outs in the facade, balconies coming out. So there's a lot of depth of the building and a lot of mass and breakdown, we believe. Go to the next one. just another view looking from the other side of Mount Diablo, going back down. Same ideas, again, just again, trying to break it down as much as we can, given the size and scale of the building. Let me go to the next. And then starting to zoom in a little bit at the lobby. There's a couple things going on, which we'll get into the next slide, but the little section cut down below also shows the way that the ground plane changes as you go across the site. So, at Mount Diablo, you sort of have a two-story element, and then you go to the back where the garage enters on the top floor. We'll see that in the plan later. But right here, you want to see the lobby, and it's, playing up that corner. We have a nice screen element that provides sunshade into the lobby as well. It's a nice second two-story lobby as well to make it as much open as we can. We've got a green screen element that's along the facade at the front that kind of cuts in and goes into the lobby. And then we'll go to the next slide here. And kind of getting into the things we want to do to try to activate the street along Mount Diablo. So starting on the far left of the plan, that item number 1, we've got a planted area as much as we could provide given the sort of weird property line that we've got sort of cutting back. But we sort of start the street with a little bit of landscaping along the edge of the building. And then as you move inward, you've actually got a little bit of activation with some uses that are along the street, which we've got the bike parking and the dog amenity room, dog spot. So, and then the green screen, as I mentioned, that kind of green line, it sort of starts on that wall, cuts into the lobby, brings you inward. And then we've got the glazed tall lobby, two-story space, nice and open that connects to the street. And then we've got a little bit of an entry plaza right at the front with some steps there. People might be waiting outside for an Uber or a friend to pick them up. And it's actually something we're suggesting along that curve. Actually jumping into item number 8 was it'd be a nice opportunity to allow a little parking space there, like a temporary parking space for people getting dropped off or picked up with Uber or Uber Eats or stuff like that. So we're suggesting an idea like that to have a drop off there. And then we've got a little large a street tree added. Thought it might be nice, the number 7 there, to add a few more street trees along there as well. So I think we're doing all we can to activate as much as possible that street facade with the base there, the way the architecture sort of emphasizes that lower level. We're trying as much as possible to activate the pedestrian level. You want to go to the next. And just a couple other views, the upper plan there shows sort of the ins and outs that are happening in the facade. In general, we have a lot of different unit types. One of the things that Nikhil wanted to make sure happened in this project is there's a variety of unit types. So, buyers are going to have a lot of options of what they buy. But what it did help do is in the facade is actually create the ins and outs, kind of break down the facade in this kind of village-like feel with everything. So go to the next. And then just a glimpse in more detail at the floor plans. These are the 2 lower levels. The one on the left is the lowest level, just kind of showing where all the entry points are to the building. So one of the things we made sure also happened was to push the garage entries back on 2nd and around the corner, get them away from Mount Diablo, get them away from the intersection. So that's the upper right entry there, the left plan. And then the back plan, the 2nd story of the parking you enter from, or back street at the back. Go to the next one here. Plan on the left is showing the 3rd floor, which there's great opportunity for those units to have this sort of sit on the podium, have a lot of outdoor space up for those units. And then each level above has ample balcony spaces. Some of them actually have 2 balconies. And then the plan is pretty efficient with just a central corridor and 2 stairs at each end. The next. And then the top floor, which is actually got an amenity space on the corner of the building that's sort of above the lobby. So you got a public meeting room, nice open deck for the residents as well. And then let's see, next one. Now just showing the elevations. You can see these are the street elevations. Lots of movement and lots of ins and outs going on. The base we talked about earlier, and then the larger 4-story on top of that. And then we'll go to the next, which would show just the next 2 elevations. And then the last one will just highlight some of the materials, try to create sort of a warm gray and light brown woods, lots of natural materials. And just, sort of a sophisticated look we're hoping for. And I think with that, thank you.
Thank you. Do we have,
Do we sit or stand or stay? Or?
you can stand,
Okay.
okay, for a minute or 2. Do we have any questions?
Yeah, can we look at the materials a little bit closer,
Sure.
where exactly what material is going?
Yeah, you wanna go back to the.
Yeah. One of the renderings, I think that should be good.
Can you go back to that slide or?
Sorry, I thought I was showing my screen.
Yeah, we're using a mixture of composite wood products and then some fiber cement panel, some board form concrete at the base, and then the white, well, the elements that appear white in the elevations are actually that corrugated metal in the upper left corner
Sure.
with aluminum windows and yeah.
And the darker material, the dark gray.
Yeah, the one in the upper right, the wood or the,
No, if you look at the rendering, I think that might be helpful
yeah, okay.
for the elevation.
Yeah, maybe actually, that's okay. Yeah, we go to the elevator,
Yeah.
baby. So yeah, the light wood is actually that base element at the bottom, you know, that sort of goes around the lobby. That's sort of a light composite wood material.
Mhm.
And then the dark gray in the building is, there's a combination of a wood composite material as well. And then there's some fiber cement panels in addition. I think you can sort of see those notes there that kind of describe
Yeah,
the different
yeah.
things. And then the corrugated metal is the lighter looking material, the
Right.
white, almost silver product.
Thank you.
Other questions? No, none. Thank you. We'll open it up for community comments. Do we have anyone today that wants to speak on this item, or do we have anyone on Zoom that wants to speak on this item?
No one is raising it, so.
Okay, so we don't need a rebuttal unless you need more time for anything. Okay, we're gonna move on to commissioners' comments. Who would like to start? Armin?
Yeah, sure. I categorize my comments into three categories. One is the massing. In terms of the scale of the building, I think it's much larger than any building within that context. So it's pretty tall, it's very dense, and just, you know, in terms of how many units and just the traffic it's gonna come into that street. So that might be a little bit challenging. The massing idea, I think with these, if we could have the rendering or something on the screen, that should be helpful. The massing idea, I feel like if you could incorporate some sort of terracing because of, you know, really how you're relating to the scale of the neighborhood, that would be helpful. And just a stepping back on the upper stories. I feel like it's happening at the podium level, but it might need to happen a little bit like at the level below that to just really feel like this building is terracing and the massing is setting back. So it relates better to the neighboring context. Regarding the materials, I think it's coming together nicely, just the kind of like juxtaposition of the corrugated metal. It's very reflective, it's very bright, with those darker materials, and also how the massing is being articulated. I feel like there are a little bit more work that could be done there, that how the material kind of reinforces the massing ideas. For example, all the receding planes, they would take one color. The volumes that they are proud, they would just take another color or different materials. So it's a little bit kind of integrated into the massing idea, rather than now it feels like there's a little bit of everything everywhere. I feel like if there is a little bit more kind of hierarchy from massing to materials and how is it being incorporated here, I think that's going to really help the idea. And then the third one is the street front. Just the true story of the parking with the board form concrete. I feel it's a little bit foreign to anywhere in the city. Like even if you look at the Merrill Gardens, it's relatively a dense project. It just are like a few minutes away from this. We could see that how it's being articulated, the materials, all of that, and the parking, how is it tucked behind? And it doesn't just take all the front of the building, I think that's a good precedent to look at it. And I feel like now it's, with the two-story of the concrete and the parking along the Second Street, I feel it's really looming. And it doesn't, even though I think the design intent is to activate the front, it's not happening right now. So these are my concerns, and I think if these could be addressed, that's gonna really help the projects. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Travis?
I would concur with all of that. I think you're not activating the site as well as one could. The two-story parking, I don't know it's necessary or appropriate. It's unusual for Lafayette. The height is probably my primary concern. It's gonna stand out like a sore thumb in that area. There's nothing that height within a reasonable distance. I think the design components are less of a concern to me. But I will take your lead on all that stuff. I agree that maybe there are some improvements to be made there, but primarily I'd like to see it just lower. I don't know why you have to build such a big number of units on the site.
Richard?
Well, I have similar comments. The way I'm thinking about it is trying to think about how it fits the character of the surrounding neighborhood, and I struggle with that. It's taller than anything else there. I mean, the other buildings are 2 and 3 stories. They tend to have sort of a garden apartment type of a feel to them for the residential units. Even the office type uses are a couple of stories. There's the area tends to have a lot of landscaping. So this is really a departure from what's in that area now. And so, thinking about the waivers from the zoning, it seems like a departure from what was envisioned to be in that area also. What's the plan going forward? What was the zoning anticipating that area would develop into? Because some of the buildings are older. And it seems I struggle with that also, I'll just say, that I don't see how, if this isn't following the zoning planning ideas of what that area should be in the future, and it doesn't really fit the character of what's there now, then I have issues with that. I struggle with how to understand the project. And in particular, the others have mentioned it, but that 2-story podium for the parking, I get it that's needed for the design problem that you're working on to make that work. But it's really a foreign thing. I mean, that looks more like a San Francisco or Oakland type, super urban pedestrian experience to walk along there. Your renderings of that area looks like you've got a 2-story high concrete wall that you're walking by. And granted, there's some treatment to it with the colors and finishes, but essentially it's a 2-story blank wall for a pedestrian walking by there. So I think that's an area that needs more thought. The corner element with the lobby, again, seems out of character with the neighborhood. It seems very urban. It's very downtown San Francisco, kind of a corner lobby for those condos. It doesn't seem like a Lafayette feel for me. I think it could be toned down. So those are my comments.
Can I clarify one thing?
Yes.
What about the 2-story parking hall? That's actually mostly wood. So it's not concrete, so. Yeah.
Okay.
That helps. Thank you.
I share a lot of the comments. I mean, when I look at this, when I look at the elevations here, is that there's a lot of articulation along Second Street and on the back side. And then when you look at the main facade for Lafayette, Mont Diablo Boulevard, you don't have that same experience. The way that on the Second Street, you're taking the one element and color-wise and not bringing it up the full height, but it doesn't really project when you get down there to Mont Diablo Boulevard. It it looks like a rectangular box. And it's a tall rectangular box, okay? Mostly we have a height restriction of 35 feet and a terracing back, you know, so we've had projects like at Oak, is it Oak Park, Oak Hill? Where the main facade, I mean, the thing is that as we go higher up in the city, as we go upgrade in the density, we have to sort of sacrifice some of that articulation on some of the facades, but I don't like to see it on the main front facade, you know? So when we are on Oak Hill, we have a project that is under review right now, and it's terraced back in there. And one of the nice things that they did is that when they get to the top of that parking podium level, the gardens they create a public garden there, not a private little garden for the individual units. So the idea is that they can introduce more landscaping, trees, and intermediate activities there that really help to take away that boxiness. You know, if you see 2 or 3 trees on that facade, it will not look the same as that straight, flat up facade. And that's just not happening here. You know, it's not a public balcony. It's a individual balcony, and who knows what's going to be out there, you know, to do it. So, material wise, one of the things that we've seen in some of the others is, I'm not sure how you're doing the railings and how the slab at the railings, what the appearance on that is going to be. Whenever we've had sort of a metal flashing in front of there in the past, some of them have done it with a structural steel element like a C element, and it looks better because it has substantial. Some of it do it with more like a sheet metal, and it looks tinny. I mean, literally, you can see it's bent and it's not well done, and it really is a function of the gauge that you're using and so on and so forth. Yeah, I think my biggest complaint is that I know you want, you know, the number of units that you have, but if you don't step it back, you're gonna have to do something that doesn't make it look like it's just a straight up on Mount Diablo Boulevard. Okay, that's our comments.
Can I add one more comment?
Sure.
I appreciate the way that the balconies, they're being incorporated, and I think you've done a really nice job with that. I think especially on the second street facade, the movement, and that's how it's kind of like responding to the angle of the side. I think that's very nice. Just the voids and the solids and how is it kind of like activating that face. I think that's really nice. Would be great if you could see some of that kind of language on the Mount Diablo edge too. Rather than like these stack of balconies, they're just all projecting and going straight up. I think if it's kind of somehow incorporates into the massing idea, that would be really nice as it's happening in the second street.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on our,
Do you wanna make a motion?
no, there's no resolution on a study session.
Correct, sorry, I was looking up.
Yeah, they just take our comments jointly and use them as you wish.
Vote.
No, there's no vote.
Beautiful, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you very much. We'll do that.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item, SS 02-25, Whiteman is the owner. This is a R20 zoning. This is request for a study session to construct a 992 square foot first floor addition and a 1,118 square foot second floor addition to a proposed ridge height of 28 feet 6 inches. This is at a location at 3355 Carlisle Terrace. And Madison Leonard will be our staff presenter.
Yes. 1 moment. Great. Good evening, everyone. My name is Madison Leonard. I'm the planning technician. I will be presenting the study session for an addition and remodel of an existing single-family home at 3355 Carlisle Terrace. The 0.28 acre project site is located in the south central portion of Lafayette. More specifically, it's located on the east side of Moraga Road off of Sweet Direct. Site is zoned R20. On the site is an existing single-story, single-family home, which totals 2,080 square feet in total floor area. The project proposes a first floor addition, which expands towards the rear, shown in the dashed line on the site plan. It also proposes a 1,118 second floor addition, which is concentrated on the west side of the site. In total, the home would be 4,210 square feet in floor area. Couple things to point out, the existing home is non-conforming to the front and the side setbacks. Therefore, the additions would require a variance. The property owner also owns the adjacent narrow parcel that abuts the project site. So staff recommends that the property owner merge the two parcels with a lot line revision application to create a compliant west side setback. The first floor plan is shown above. This includes 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. And the proposed first floor is shown on the image above, and the proposed second floor is shown on the image below. With this addition area, the existing home would become a 6-bedroom, 4-bathroom home with an office. You'll now see the front or north elevation. This is where you can see the new 2nd-story addition. There will also be new stucco siding to accompany the horizontal wood siding. The existing ridge height of 14 feet 5 inches will be increased to 28 feet 6 inches. Here we have the right or west elevation where you're seeing that 2nd-story massing. I'd like to point out, looking at the images above, you'll see that the existing residence sits at a lower elevation to the west side neighbor. Therefore, the 2nd-story addition would be screened by the existing uphill slope. Here we have the rear or south elevation. The first floor addition will project towards the rear, which is called out with the red line on the image below. There are no nearby neighbors to the rear. Here we have the left or east side elevation. The project would increase the roof height on this side. However, the east side of the home would remain 1 story, and the west side of the home is where the 2nd-story addition would be concentrated. The study session was noticed to neighbors and posted 10 days in advance of the meeting, and no public comment was received. Staff presents 3 questions to the DRC. Does the project substantially comply with the residential design guidelines with respect to minimizing impacts to the off-site views and neighbor privacy? Is the proposed project's massing and scale consistent with the existing homes in the neighborhood and the sloped hillside setting? And lastly, are there any other comments the DRC would like to pass on to the applicant? Staff's recommendation is to review the proposal and provide feedback to the applicant. That concludes the presentation.
Thank you, Madison. Do we have any questions for Madison?
In terms of the setbacks, the required setbacks, can you just over them? looking at what's required and what's the non-conforming condition.
I can pull up that zone specifically. But I do know that the side setbacks are aggregate of 35 with no side less than 15.
Sure,
And then the front, I think, is 25,
right.
but I can confirm that.
It's 20 on the front and there's 16 there now, I think.
21, okay.
Right. 16 and a half at the closest point and 22 at the other corner. Is that right?
Pardon me?
I'm just looking at the plan. It calls for 22 feet at the corner next to the entry point and 16 and a half at the west end of the west corner of the project.
We would measure it to the closest point, so 16.
So 16 and a half.
Right.
Yeah, the house that's slightly cockeyed on the lot.
Yeah.
And so if you're looking at that view, the left side is non-compliant by, I think, 4 feet.
Sure.
And just to follow up on that, the front setback is 20 feet.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, applicant, you have 10 minutes to present.
My shot, huh?
Yep.
Well, I can't say much after following the big project ahead of me. This is a fairly simple residential remodel.
Can you please introduce yourself in relation to the project?
I'm sorry, my name is Bill Whiteman, and I am the applicant. So, this is a fairly straightforward residential remodel. The idea is to extend the back of the house and then, put a partial second floor. As Madison pointed out, the second floor is, on the side of the house where there's a steep hill. That parcel that you see on the left-hand side of the diagram there, as near as I can tell, when they laid this out, there was going to be a flag lot behind us, and that was going to be a driveway to it. When they saw the topography, somebody changed their mind and they cut it off. From the yard next door, you really would be looking pretty much over the roof. You wouldn't be blocking anything there. So we wanted to do this primarily to get some feedback before we went to the expense of getting permit drawings and so forth. So we're anxious just to hear any comments that you have, answer any questions that you have. A couple of things I'd like to point out in the material that I got. And I don't know the significance, but I'm looking at the second page now. It says the majority of the residents are single floor. There are actually 5 two-story houses on the street. The one next door, which is a second floor over garage, is into the hillside. And then down at the far end of the street, one house, which was just built, the second floor was just added 3343, and then 3 houses in a row at that end all have a second floor on it. The other thing, and again, I don't know the significance of this, but the vegetation is what's called a silver maple. That tree you see in the center of the back there, it's not an oak tree. I know people are very sensitive about oaks, but it's not an oak. Nonetheless, the plan was conceived to try to do everything we could to preserve the tree, and in fact, add some area, taking out some concrete patio and putting in something that's permeable over the area that we uncover, even though we extend to within maybe 12 or 15 feet of the tree itself. So anyway, if anybody has any comments or questions, I'm here to answer them and then to get feedback, because we want to know what we need to do before we take the next step. And that was really our understanding of what this session was all about, was to get comments so that we could not spin our wheels with plans that were not gonna meet your needs.
Great. Commissioner, questions?
Sure. When I'm looking at the second story addition and the shed roof form with that additional height there, I'm just wondering, what was the reasoning of going so much taller at that corner?
Well, you're talking about the pitch on the right side
Yeah,
there.
right.
Just a design feature. Even if you put a traditional roof on that, it's gonna still be almost the same height. by doing it that way also, when you look at the other elevation coming out from the other side, we were able to put some windows up there to break up the mass. So that adds some relief to the overall mass coming from the elevation from the other side.
From the west side, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm just concerned about the extent of the roof that they're gonna look at it, because also they're at the higher elevation.
right. You'd have to see the site, but the hill itself, is about that high. So there isn't much, you're not blocking anything on the west side. But
Sure.
neighbors over there have only one window on that side. It's a small window by a refrigerator and a kitchen. And, having been there many times, they don't really do much in there,
Sure.
so.
I have another question. This is not to our purview, but just it seemed interesting. Why the kitchen, if you look at the floor plan, why the kitchen is having the cabinetry, and it might be just the base cabinetry, but feels like it wants to flip to face the backyard rather than,
The kitchen is
Yeah.
designed to face the backyard.
but then what's,
There's a window on the cabinets there at the
Uh-huh.
bottom. If you look at that, you see the door on the far right near the bottom,
right,
there's a window about 5 or 7 feet in from that, doorway along that there's a sink there that would look out pretty much towards the tree.
yeah, I'm looking at the rear elevation. I see the slider windows and that
Yeah.
might be, sure. That's kind of personal opinion, but if you just flip the kitchen, put your cabinetry against that garage wall, the whole thing is gonna just face the backyard. You could have a slider doors opening from your kitchen to the backyard.
Well, we haven't had a kitchen designer look at it yet.
Yeah,
We just, like I said, we just wanted to get some rough
Sure.
ideas here, and
Sure,
the plan is to get a kitchen designer involved once we got the space defined and
right.
see what they come
right,
up
but
with.
that might impact where you're gonna put a door or so. The other question I have is about the materials. Are you gonna use what's existing there for your siding or?
Again, we haven't finalized anything, but what I've been looking at are some fiber cement products. I see two that I like, or combinations. Some of them come in, stucco-like material. They're panels, 16 by 4 feet. So part of the project would be that, and then part of it would be the same materials.
Like
but then to
Hardie or-
Simulate, pardon me,
Hardy,
the kind I've seen is Nichia, you know.
Nichia, yeah,
Yeah, again, I don't know the pricing on it, but, and then the Chia stuff has some, vertical, well, I guess you can lay it any way you want to, some simulated wood products in different colors, so you get a lighter or middle tone, stucco-like product, and then a wood contrasting tone, that would be another part of it.
sure, but as now everything is shown with this kind of like horizontal.
I've talked to the architect many times about changing things, and sometime I'm not gonna pay any more money to change the drawings until we get some feedback.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Any other questions?
I
Yeah.
have one. So do you have opposition to filing a lot line adjustment?
Um, I wouldn't say that I'm opposed to it. I'm a little bit, unsure why we need to do it. There is in fact on the books in Lafayette a statute or ordinance which is applicable. And you might look at it, 62203 and 62204. And it says two or more contiguous parcels of land which have been created under blah, 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 blah. Anyway, it says they shall be considered merged and the city gives notice. Now, I've pursued this a little bit in Madison's talk. I mean, apparently the city's never used this. The benefit to me in merging the lots, among other things, is I only pay one parcel tax instead of two. But beyond that, the hassle of dealing with a lot merger and the fees and so forth, with this on the books, if we can avoid it, I'd like to avoid it. If we have to do it, we have to do it. And I also, we're gonna have to get a variance on that front corner. Now, some of the places on the street are also out of compliance. The place next door to us at 3363, I haven't measured it, but it's very close. They actually had a second floor that was pushed back and they brought it out as part of their remodel, which was completed maybe 3 years ago or so. So, anyway, like I said, the problem is the property is not square on the lot, or the house isn't, so you have a little bit of an issue there, but, we expect to apply for the variance and hope we can get a positive feedback there.
For the purpose of this study session, I would say that a lot line adjustment is probably faster than a variance. Your variance is gonna be,
Well,
it's
it'll,
gonna take you a
once
lot.
we have what we need, we'll try to put it all together with the variance, and if we need to do the lot line adjustment, then we'll do that at the same time. So, I don't think there's anything to it other than a survey and application and so forth, and as part of the overall process, I don't think it's a major element, but if it has to be done, then we have to do it.
And that silver maple, how old is that?
The house was built in the early 50s. The tree looks to be at least that old, so it's 75 years old.
Most of them in that area, I live in that neighborhood, are thereabouts. Why not consider doing a remodel on the other side where you don't have the variance issue?
Well, if you put the second floor, well, we're pushing out the whole back end, so of the house. So you're gonna have the issue with the tree there by putting it on the, I'm gonna call it the west side. You don't have, you bury the second floor into the hillside, so you don't notice it as much. If you put the second floor on the other side, you do have a tree problem, and you also, it sticks out because there's a further down slope there, so we just emphasized the second floor, if you put the second floor on the east side of the house.
And it looks like you have an elevated roof line purely for windows? Is that why?
No, the windows were put there to minimize the flat wall effect. But just to, when you drive down the street, there are only a few houses down the street, but if you drive down the street, instead of seeing a plain blank wall, you can see some windows there. All that'll be up there is some storage. It's just a storage space. There's nothing up there.
So you're gonna have an attic?
Pardon me?
You're gonna have an attic?
That space, if you look at the drawing that you're looking at right there, you'll see the top of the roof plate on the second floor. And that pie-shaped place up there would be attic space.
Okay.
And the windows up there would be placed to correspond to some shafts for the skylights.
Right.
So they would probably, I can't say they're gonna look exactly like that. It depends on where the skylights fall.
Right.
Okay, any other
There we go.
questions?
All right.
Do we have any public comments? Questions?
No hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, everybody,
Thank you very much.
okay, open it up for Commissioner. You wanna start, Rich?
Sure, yeah, so my comments would be sort of along the line of what's already been talked about. I think that the building would fit into the neighborhood better if you did not have the shed roof and you just
Yeah.
went with the conventional gable and you eliminated those windows that are shown right now there on the, I guess that's the east side of the house. I just really think that this form that you're working with,
Right.
it just is gonna stand out for the neighborhood, and I think you would be better off just going with the conventional gable roof and doing the same thing over the garage element. But other than that, I think you did the right thing, putting the second floor on that right-hand side where there's the big elevation change. That makes total sense to do it there. And I don't have any issues with the floor plans or the materials, but I just, that roof line
Yeah.
just strikes me as.
It doesn't suit everybody.
Yeah, that's my feedback.
Okay, Travis,
Nothing further.
nothing further?
Yeah, I agree with
Private?
Richard. I think that was exactly what I was gonna go with. In regards to the next session, as you are gonna come in here, we would like to see the context.
Like to see,
The context and the neighbors a little bit more clear. So we wanna have side sections that cuts and shows the distance and the elevation of the neighboring houses, both on the east side and the west side.
so you want to see an elevation of those
Of course.
houses relative to our house.
Right.
Wow,
A
a
section
sectional,
that
yeah.
cuts.
You don't have
This
to,
section, yeah.
yeah,
Right.
just this section.
Okay, I'm just thinking what I gotta do. That means no
Sure.
survey.
And it could be,
No, it
No,
can be
yeah.
sort of
Yeah,
diagrammatic.
right, a Google Earth could also
Yeah,
give you.
the photos to give you a rough idea. I mean, I understand you want to see
Right.
that, but the photos I took to emphasize that.
Totally.
Show that.
Actually, that was very informative when I was looking at the just discussion based on the second story on the right the east versus west, I agree 100% that's working better on the west side. Just how it relates to the hill and it's staying away from the neighbors' views. But so we want to just see a sectional
Yeah,
drawing.
okay.
And then the materials, we want to have
Right.
more clarity. The exterior lighting, we want to see that. So there's going to be more improvements to the plans that we would like to see.
Right,
here.
but if we're on the right track, then I don't mind going to the next step. Just,
Mhm.
okay.
I agree. With Rich and the other commissioners, the shed roof just doesn't add
Nobody likes it.
the
Okay.
appeal, to me. I'm not hung up on the variance versus merging the lots or whatever. It's
Yeah.
basically the same thing. Just how you're playing around with paper. That's it, basically.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay,
Good luck.
Thank you. Madison, thank you.
Thank you.
okay, we have no continued public hearings. We have no new public hearings. We have Art volunteer. I can volunteer unless there's someone else biting at the bit. Okay, I will do that for Friday. Commissioners' reports. I have nothing to report. Staff liaison.
Yes, two items. The first item is just a reminder that the regularly scheduled, May 27th DRC meeting, which is the next scheduled meeting, is on a Tuesday. And this is an observance of Memorial Day.
Correct.
Second item is at the May 27th city council meeting, which is also that Tuesday. There will be a brief presentation on the DRC's 2024 results and 2025 work plan, which the planning department is working on, creating the presentation this week. So please, plan to attend the council meeting after our scheduled, DRC meeting on the 27th.
So we'll be after instead of in front.
No questions, sir. No questions.
Yeah,
What?
oh, no, I thought, yeah.
I didn't hear the answer to the chair's question.
We're not gonna be in before them. We're gonna be after them. Usually we're before. Usually we have
Oh,
our presentation at the beginning of their meeting. And then we dismiss ourselves and come down here.
and that's true.
Yeah, because we have no control over how long our meeting's gonna last.
Yeah,
Okay, so then that throws their schedule off.
so they are before. I guess I'm a little confused.
It's always been before.
Okay.
Yes, so the city council
Mhm,
has presentations at the beginning of their meeting.
mhm. Gotcha, and so they will be.
So
before them.
if the meeting starts at 6:30, which
Mhm.
is the decision of the city manager,
Okay.
you'll be invited to go upstairs at 6:30, knock it out, come down, start at 7. If the decision is to start at the regular 7 o'clock starting time upstairs, we'll be asked to go upstairs and at 7:04. Go to the brief update
Uh-huh.
for
Okay.
this past year and looking forward to next year. So, are there any new public hearings slated for the next meeting?
No, just a continued public hearing.
Okay, so if there were new public hearings, those notices probably would have gone out with a notice that said 7 p.m. start time. So since it is a continuation, we could start the DRC meeting at 7:30. Or just started at 7
And dismiss
Be
ourselves.
recess.
That's why I recess. Okay,
7:30 start time for the May 27th DRC.
okay. Any other staff liaison items?
No.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.